What's up guys, Shane Starnes here, you know me better as Droid Modder X, and today we are going to be discussing the Nexus 6. This device is actually a pretty rare device. In fact, it was put up on the Play Store several times, and several times it was sold out. It's also been on the Motorola website, and there as well it's been sold out just about as soon as it launches. Anything that ever made it to the Best Buy store was instantly purchased as well. So it's been pretty hard to get a hold of, but I have one here. I was able to get mine from Motorola. Motorola pre-orders went up, and as soon as they did, I was able to grab one. I was, one of just a few that were able to grab one in the several hours that it was available, but here it is. I'm going to be answering some of your questions. So we've got several pages of questions. I'm going to answer probably some of the more popular questions in the thread. Okay, so Drums of Grohl asked the question, how fast does the phone charge, and how long does the charge last? So that's a really good question. With a phone this huge, battery life is obviously going to be one of the main features of a phone this size. So this phone has a 3220 milliamp hour battery. In my experience, it takes about 3 hours to charge it. I've been using the fast charger that comes with the Note 4. I'm not sure if it makes a difference on this phone or not, because I'm not sure if this has the technology for fast charging. But like I said, it takes about 3 hours to fully charge that 3220 milliamp hour battery. I'm able to get a full day's use out of this very large battery. So normally when I get home off of work from, like, say, a 10-hour day at work, and I've been using this phone moderately, not super heavy, I normally get home and still have about 35% battery left. So that's not like super incredible, but it is pretty good, because I'm getting normally about 4 hours of screen on time with this device. So most smaller devices, like say a Galaxy S5 or an HTC One M8, you're going to average about 3.5 hours of screen on time. So you're going to get an extra half hour to an hour screen on time with this Nexus 6 and its huge battery. Another question that Drums of Grohl had is, how heavy is the device? So when I first pulled this out of the box, the first reaction was, wow, it is a beefy, heavy device. But with that heft comes some durability, and it feels like a very well-built device. It is from Motorola. Motorola is known for producing devices that stand up to torture, basically, and most of the devices that they've always put out have been just big, nice, solid devices. If you think back to the Motorola Droid, the Motorola Droid X, and all of these, the Bionic, all these devices were a whole lot more sturdy than the other devices that were coming up around them. If we compare it to the Note 4, it does feel quite a bit heavier than, say, the Note 4. The Note 4 actually feels pretty compact and light. It's a little thinner than the Note 6, but it feels to be much lighter than the Nexus 6. Another question that he posted here is, how's the camera? It's just a stock camera, so there's not a whole lot of features here. Basically, you're just getting the stock AOSP camera. You do have photosphere and you do have panorama mode. But other than that, it is not feature-rich. So a phone like the Note 4 or the Galaxy S5 is going to have a ton of extra camera features. Even the One M8 is going to have some extra gimmicky features like filters and different things like that. But here, all we really have, you do have some settings here, auto flash. You've got HDR mode. There's a timer mode there. You have lens blur, which just basically, if you take a picture, it blurs the background and makes the whatever it is that you are focusing on, it makes it stand up in the front. You have some settings, resolution, quality, save location, advanced, and some advanced settings there. You're not going to get all the filters and a bunch of what's normally considered unnecessary things in this camera. As far as the picture quality, it's not the greatest. So Nexus phones have always been known for not having the greatest camera. This one has a pretty decent camera, with a 13 megapixel camera that shoots in 4K. It's actually a decent camera, but it's not the best that I've seen, and it tends to suffer in low light situations. Another question there is, what do you think about the speakers? I love the front facing speakers. I love that we have two of these. On the Moto X, there's just one. Here we actually have stereo speakers, and they are super loud. In fact, this speaker up top is what you use when you're talking on the phone, and it's so loud that I have found it hard to keep my conversations on the phone private, because when you hold this up to your head, you can even hear it really loudly from the backside, and even if you turn the volume down. So this is kind of strange. You can't really hear it very well when you have this held up to your head when you're talking on the phone, but anyone around you can hear your entire conversation. That's kind of a drawback in my opinion. One thing that I don't like about the speaker. But as far as media consumption, these speakers are awesome. I wish that all OEMs would go to front-facing speakers. TatDroid asks, how's the battery life driving the huge screen? So I've kind of already given you a rundown on the battery life, but one thing that I forgot to mention here, to achieve the battery life that I'm getting, I have to pull down my settings and put it to about 35% screen brightness. That's where I keep it all day unless I'm in some crazy sunlight and I've got to be able to see my screen. I'll turn up the brightness some. There is an adaptive setting for the screen, but I find that just keeping it at that lower brightness really helps to extend the battery life. It is a huge 6-inch screen, almost tablet sized, but I don't think that that really retracts from the battery. It's more of the internals and the fact that we're running a quad HD display here that's really eating up that battery life. But you can, like I said, you can really help out your battery life by turning down your brightness, and I've found that that really helps to get me through the entire day. Vertical's asking, how does it feel? As far as the construction of the hardware, this is, like I said, this is a Motorola device. It's very sturdy, very well built. It is akin to the Moto X, and if you look at Lou from Unbox Therapy, he did a bend test on the Moto X, and it didn't budge. So really, you should be able to bend it, and this phone is not going to crack. It's waterproof. I can't say waterproof because it's not waterproof. It's water resistant. It doesn't have the same water resistance as the Moto X. You can't hold it underwater for 3 feet for 30 minutes, but you should be able to hold this under a faucet and let water run over it. If you spilled a drink on it, you're not going to damage your phone because it has that bit of water resistance built into it. Things like that just really make this feel like a very well-built device. You've got Gorilla Glass 3 on the front, which should help with scratch resistance. Everything about the phone just feels premium. It feels more premium than any other Nexus device that I've ever owned. Okay, Chef B asked the question, when is it coming to Verizon? So that's a really good question. The answer is no one knows. So as you guys can see there, it says Verizon Wireless on my phone. That's because I'm using a Verizon Wireless SIM. I purchased mine directly from Motorola. It's unlocked. If you take this into Verizon, they're not going to activate it for you. But if you have an existing Verizon SIM card, you can slide it into your SIM card reader there, and you can use this on Verizon's network. It's totally capable of running LTE on Verizon. It also works on Sprint, T-Mobile, and AT&T right out of the box, but you do have to have an existing SIM card. Verizon hasn't announced any plans to even carry this phone, and if they do carry it, it'll probably be at the beginning of the year. They're probably trying to work out with Google whether or not they can have bloatware on the phone. You know, even with the Galaxy Nexus, there was bloatware, and then they kind of ruined the update process. So it seems on this release like Google is trying to work with carriers to the very best of their ability. They're trying to embrace the carriers. So Verizon may actually have this, but if they do have it, it's going to be at the beginning of the year. Think January, February, maybe even into March. Best bet is to just go buy it outright from Motorola or from the Play Store and just use your current SIM card. Okay, so Ollie asked the question, how does it feel to go from a medium-sized phone to a gargantuan tablet with cellular capabilities? Now, that seems to be an overstatement, or that may seem to be an overstatement there, or it might seem like he's saying that in jest. But when you think about it, the Nexus 7 is a 7-inch tablet. The Nexus 6 is a 6-inch phone. So if you hold the Nexus 7 up to the Nexus 6, even up to the Nexus 9, you can see that, yeah, there's a pretty big size difference between a tablet and a phone. But even so, this is a huge phone. This is bigger than any phone I've ever used. It is bigger, quite a bit bigger than the Note 4. And if you're coming from a medium-sized phone like a Galaxy S5, LG G3, or HTC One M8, this is probably going to seem too big. So the very first impressions that you'll have of this phone is it's way too big, way too heavy, way too cumbersome. But once you use it for several weeks, you more than likely will fall in love with it like I have. Now the only issues that I have with the actual size is just reaching the screen. So from this comfortable position, this is about as far as I can reach up the screen. Now if I want to reach that top corner, I would have to adjust the phone and then reach it. So you're not going to be able to reach all of the screen with one hand unless you're just a giant. So that difference can be a deal breaker for some of you. I have the feeling that if you're like me, you'll use it for a few weeks and you'll get used to that size. Okay, Thunderbolt Nick asked the question, do you feel this would be preferable over the Moto X 2014? Now, the answer to that is it's your preference. So the Moto X 2014, the only difference here, this is basically the cousin of the Moto X 2014 as far as the design and even the operating system, because the Moto Blur or the Motorola Skin is pretty much Android AOSP with just a few extra functions built into it, a few extra Motorola apps baked into the software. Other than that, it is pretty much stock Android. It's really all up to you. The Nexus 6 is super easy, super easy to modify, super easy to unlock the bootloader, super easy to root, super easy to install custom ROMs. For me, that's important. For you, that may not be important. For you, the extra Motorola functionality might be important. For me, I just want a pure stock Android device that is easy to modify. So it's really just up to you as far as preference is concerned. The Moto X 2014 is a little smaller, so if size is an issue and you don't care about customizations, the Moto X may be for you. If you're like me and you have to have a phone that's easily customizable, the Nexus 6 is probably the best bet. Don's asked, does this phone have wireless charging capability? It does. As per Marquez Brown Lee, MKBHD, he did a demonstration and he was having lots of trouble, lots of issues, but it does include it. Apparently you have to line the phone up just right to get it to work, but it does include it. Okay guys, those are some really good questions. As far as I'm concerned, the Nexus 6 is a very solid device. I really enjoy this device, and I think you'll probably enjoy it too, especially if you're into ROMing or modding, or if you just like a stock Android experience and you want the latest and greatest updates from Android, or the latest and greatest updates from Google rather, you'll probably want to get your hands on this Nexus 6. Anyways, guys, that about wraps it up for this discussion Q&A video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up. Maybe we will have some more videos like this in the future on other devices. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for future videos. Also, you can find more of me at droidforums.net. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'll see you in the next one.